Talk about your casting process and why did you want to do Traitors in the first place?
Okay, traitors. Well, it's a case of strike while the iron's hot. I was always thinking about going on something or applying for something in general. However, um I hadn't done it yet. The opportunity just arose. So I was thinking to myself, well, what's out there? Maybe it's the moment. What's out there? And I had a look around and I saw traitors, but I hadn't actually watched traitors prior to applying for it, I should say. And when I saw it, I thought, yes, that's me. I like this. I like it a real lot. It was yeah, it gave me goosebumps. When that happened, I thought, right, let me apply on the spot right here, right now. So that's what happened. So I literally just applied on the spot, did my video, a bit like I'm having a call with you here, just spoke to the camera, filled in whatever the details were and said, yep, that's it, sent it off and forgot about it. And
Yeah,
then literally about, I don't know, maybe a week or something like later, 2 weeks later, whenever, then I got the response and the journey began.
yeah, so obviously you don't know what's going on rewatching the episodes, but going into episode one, what is that did you know that you were already on the hot seat in day one? Like they were considering murdering you right off the bat. Like they shut it down immediately, but the fact that you were even in contention like that early on, did you even expect that?
Yeah, I mean that was a real surprise to me. I mean, I hadn't heard my name all day long, and just before I went into the round table, then I realized, oh, my name's been bandied around. And I thought, oh my goodness, it's a setup. I'm walking straight into the fire, aren't I? I'm walking into the fire. Right. So you can imagine you don't have a chance to really settle down, and then all of a sudden it's like, right, you're up, you're in the hot seat. So yeah, that was absolutely a surprise. But that's the beauty of the game. You never know what's coming next. That's what's so beautiful, you know. You think that you can make some plans and yeah, I'm gonna settle in nicely. It's not really gonna be a problem. Yeah, work my way in, build some allies and all of that. And it was like, no, you're up on the chopping block here and now. You are fighting for your life right here, right now. And man, that was real welcome to the game indeed.
Yeah, so where did the tension with Diane start? Going into episode two, she obviously said that you have an ego, but I mean, everybody who goes on reality TV has an ego, so that doesn't make sense to me. Like, if you want to go on reality TV, you obviously like the spotlight, you obviously like putting yourself in crazy situations. I mean, I don't think it was just because you didn't put her in a space in line. So where did that actually happen? What was the real root of it?
Well, to be honest, you're really gonna have to ask her that because I really don't know. But I mean, picking up on what you say, in terms of ego, I'm not certain. This is like, unlike say, obviously Traitors US, where it's all about celebs ego. This is your everyday people really going on this. So it's not so much about from an egotistical perspective, but I think it was for me. It was quite simple. If you watched episode one, you knew that they put the people in the line and then they got rid of a few people. So as soon as they put us in the line, we're like, oh no, not this again. I
Yeah.
need to choose my spot. I hadn't even seen her. I was too busy just stepping in line. Now, if they say to you step in line and we're in survival mode, it's not a case of, oh, ladies and gents first. We're in survival mode, okay? You expected me to be a gentleman in this game of survival? I wasn't being a gentleman. So I'm not going to be like, oh, do you know what? Come into the line. Here you go. Here it is. You know, mate, you find your space. I found mine, find yours. So you know how it is. In these type of things, maybe emotions get the better of people, and who knows? Some people when they got a bee in their bonnet, that's it. If they've got if they've held something, that's it. There's nothing you can say, nothing you can do. That's what it is. And I guess being a coach, when I need to stand my ground, I stand my ground. And I guess with maybe her being a teacher, she's accustomed to getting her way. But then she got no response. So maybe that's what it was. I don't know. This is just pure speculation. But ultimately, yeah, it did have some spillover effect, eh? Because I got accused of being a traitor for something that happened before the traitors were even
Yeah,
chosen.
which is ridiculous. It's funny.
That
It's funny because watching season three, Jack, the guy who won, he was like, I caught Linda before, like when she was on the train. I'm like, they didn't even assign traitors when they were on the train. What are you talking about? So it's really funny how people you use that as some sort of like leverage. Yeah,
absolutely.
don't even, still going into episode two. How cool was doing the bird challenge, and why did you go for the shields? And did you ever consider not telling anybody and keeping your mouth shut? Because I don't understand why everybody in the UK says that you have shields. What is?
Well,
I don't get it.
well, first of all, the bird challenge was definitely great fun. It was the first physical challenge because one of the things for me when I saw the show was to challenge myself in these missions. When I saw those missions, I was like, that is cool. That looks like the bomb. And I want to be part of that 100%. And so that was the first real, well, I say real physical challenge because the first one was the lake. So that was a challenge in itself. But this one, you have to sprint around and collect well, get to the birds and do the calls and all of that stuff. And it was yeah, really enthralling, really exciting. Now we made a plan from the get-go because one of the bird cages were by the shields. We said, you know what? All's fair in love and war. We're gonna go for the shields. And if we get them first, we get them first, and then we'll try and get all the money. So really the idea is get all the shields, get all the money. That would be great. Um, so from that point of view, yeah, it was definitely a team idea to go for that shield. It made sense. However, would I have revealed if I had a shield? I think if you look back at the clip and Claudia's on the stairs and she says, if anyone got a shield, it's their opportunity to say, you see, myself and Andrew are not forthcoming. We're not forthcoming for a reason. The person who is forthcoming is Paul, Uncle Paulie. Uncle Paulie comes forward and gives up the shield and says, well, yeah, we've got them. And that was the moment when I knew at first, without a shadow of doubt, yeah, I got a traitor. That's a traitor right there.
Yeah. So why do you think like everybody said like your demeanor changed from like and obviously speaking to you, you're like very energetic, like very like funny, kind of seems like happy-go-lucky. People thought your demeanor changed to like that to like very subdued. Why do you think that was? Or do you think that you were just in like game mode? Because real life person is different than like a game mode person. Like that's how I
Right.
play.
Well, put it this way. First of all, I banked house money and land on being a traitor. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I felt that if I had that bestowed upon me, which was I was just one shoulder away from having it bestowed on me, because Ash right next to me is the person who got it, right? I felt that I would be able to play the game completely. In terms of my personality, they hadn't really even seen much of me at all to even have that call. I find that that's the weakest excuse people use. Your personalities change. You don't even know me. So how are you gonna know what my personality is completely? So it's something I definitely didn't buy into, and especially from people who haven't even spent 5 minutes with me. So it's like, okay, you haven't spent 5 minutes, you haven't even been around me, yet still you're telling me my personality's changed. That's like me saying to you right now, your personality's changed, Connor. But where's my baseline? I don't even have a baseline, so how can I say what your personality is? So I think that's just, in fairness, it's a game of survival and everybody's trying to survive. And it doesn't matter what side of the coin you're on. So people will use anything. Because remember, if I push you off the plank, Connor, I get to stay one day longer, one night longer. So, it's all fair. It's all fair from that point of view. So I definitely didn't buy into that. This idea, oh, your demeanor's changed, your demeanor's changed. And another thing about it was after my rude awakening coming in, so I had a mental shift of not being selected as a traitor, then getting into the faithful, and then coming under fire instantly. And that's not great because then you come under fire instantly, as you may have seen in Kaz's episode in episode 3 with Kaz, then you go around groups and people just like, everyone going for a cup of tea and stuff like that. And then you're like, oh, okay, is it like that? So then I turn into a different kind of person, which is basically somebody who says, I don't really give two monkeys about all of that, you know? So if that's what it is, okay, I'll hold my space. That's okay. I'll just go into analytical mode. That's all it was.
So going into episode three, how awful was that scarecrow challenge? Because all that running looked miserable, and then searching through all those scarecrows, I don't think you actually got like a gold piece or a shield or anything. So how awful was that? Because it did not look.
Yeah, I mean, the Scarecrow challenge was something else. It really was, you know, because we had to obviously work together well as a team. And I think, is that the one where we had to unlock the boxes first? There were some questions, and if you got it wrong, then
Yeah.
took our time and stuff like that. And some of those questions, you know what I mean? The questions that just play on people's minds, and you're like, oh wow, you know. And yeah, it was really tough. It was really challenging on that. And then obviously trying to work together as a team and get there, and then obviously you'd love to find a shield, but you don't know which scarecrow to go for. And then the other thing about it was people were always observing. So if you run for the gold, everyone can see you're running for the gold. If you run for the shield, then everyone's going to accuse you. Why are you running for the shield? You know. So it was a double-edged sword. A shield will always keep you in the game if you can survive the round table. It will keep you safe at night, but then you're going to have the burden of having the shield. And because everybody wants it. But everyone's, in the UK, we are a very polite society, you know? See, so people aren't just go, look, I want it and I don't care what anybody says. Everyone say, no, but I haven't had a turn yet. Everything's all fair. So yeah.
Yeah, so I gotta ask, what did you think of Tracy's clairvoyant reading? Because I love
Oh,
the funny scene.
there's a moment in the kitchen where I'm with Tracy, and you were talking about the clairvoyancy and stuff like that,
Yeah,
and then she's looking at me, and I'm saying, well, what star sign am I then? She's looking at me, and all the time while I'm looking at her, I've got a cup of tea in my hand, and I'm just stirring it and looking at her in her eye, and then she's, and I won't, just keeping the focus, keeping the gaze, and she gets a bit nervous. She's like, then I think she says that she said some sort of earth sign or whatever she said, and I'm like, nah, that's not correct. And then and I thought, okay, let me not like unend her too much, because then and if I unnerve her, sorry, if I unnerve her too much, later on she might hold it against me. So yeah, but was it well? It didn't really help her a whole lot. Let's put it that way, you
yeah,
know.
clearly it didn't. But so going into episode three, there was a tie between Ash and Brian. Why did you vote for Brian? Did you think that like Ash was a traitor and you wanted to like save her for later because that's what people are doing now, where it's like you find a traitor and you don't vote them out and then you slit their throat in the end? Is
Oh.
that your reasoning, or am I giving you too much credit?
No, no, no. I tell you what, that was an epic moment. And as soon as the voting went round, I was like, oh, this is a setup. I've got the deciding vote. I know I've got the deciding vote. And I'm thinking, oh my goodness. Right. So in my mind, first of all, Ash was not on my radar. Even though she was on my shoulder, she was not on my radar. Quite simply, my logic at the time was I'd worked out by episode two, Paul was a traitor. I knew that from the team challenge and the way he tried to throw Andrew underneath the bus in the second round table. I knew, because that was something we discussed only as a threesome. So he basically just sold it out, and I knew he was a traitor. Now, um, what was the point I was
Why
bringing
why
now?
did you vote for Brian?
Oh yeah, yeah. So yes, so so Ash was not on my radar. I thought she was a faithful. So I thought I was in a no-win situation where all three people were faithful. I mean, literally before that round table, I said to Brian, I believe 98% you are a faithful. That's what I said to him. So I'm like, oh wow. So I've got to choose between Brian, Ash, and was it
Diane.
Brian, Ash, and Diane?
Yeah.
And Diane, after the second round table, I came to her and I said to her, well, look, we may have got off on the wrong foot, but I know that you're not a traitor. And if we actually work together, we could do some good damage out here. So I had already in my mind known that, because that was my opportunity to strike back. If I wanted to be vengeful, I just strike right back. But I saw the bigger picture and I said, no, that wasn't the case. So I thought I was in an impossible situation. Then I thought, right, which who can give who will be a stronger faithful to remain? And Brian, and one some of the earlier challenges had lost his head completely. And then he seemed to be very influenced by what anybody says. Then I thought, oh wow, I feel really bad because I just told you you're 98% of faithful, and now I have to vote you out. And that was the reason I voted out Brian.
Yeah, I mean, a bad faithful is as bad as a good as a traitor almost, so it makes sense. Um,
Yeah.
so going into episode four, we didn't really see you that much. So what were your thoughts like on the challenge and catching a traitor? Because it mainly was just about Ash in the dungeon and being stuck in that prison hole almost.
Well, inadvertently, something I was really hoping. Oh no, actually, it happened in series four. Yeah, sorry, not series four, episode four. Something I was working on in my mind actually came to the fore, but I missed it. Which was that I thought sooner or later there'll be trouble in the tower between the traitors, and they will most probably likely try and take one another out. Now, as I said, I was zeroed in on Paul, but I was trying to work out who was around him and looking for a situation that would happen, and then it would really let me know. But this is where it kind of all went wrong because Ash went in with him in that series, and in our challenge, if we won the challenge, whichever team won the challenge, then they could free somebody from the dungeon. So when the opposite team won the challenge, I was really observing to see who was really going to be calling for Paul to get out of the dungeon, and that person was Ross. Ross was really like, yeah, let's get Paul out, let's get Paul out. But Jazz did the democratic thing and took a vote, and then in the end it ended up being Andrew. So from then I was then thinking, right, it's Paul, it's Ross, definitely, because he just wants to get him out of there too much, and I know he's a traitor. So that's what it must be. But as you can see, I was wide of the mark, completely wide of the mark.
Yeah, so going into episode five, you had a big argument with Zach thinking he was a traitor. Why was that?
Once again, Zach. Zach was somebody who went around and his whole demeanor of the way that the way he is in the sense of he would say things and then he would do things and the actions wouldn't match up, just everything about him seemed really shifty, and I'd seen him linked with Paul as well. Him and Paul were bosom buddies, so that also raised my, because as I said, I tried to do it by elimination, by, well, not
Yeah.
elimination, by association. So I was pretty certain that that Zach was a traitor. I really was. I was really zeroed in on that, dialed in on that. And the mistake I really see again, this is the thing. And it's really annoying because it's frustrating. You see it in so many episodes of Traitors. Everybody's always on the righteous foot. Oh, do you know what? You should then divulge everything you're thinking. But then as soon as you say, "Well, Zach, look, I'm gonna go for you, mate," what does he do? Get up and run around trying to get people to vote for him, to feel sorry for him. So I think he got Jasmine to vote. He got, and obviously Jasmine and Ross were tied in together. So as far as I was concerned, I called it. I said, I think the traitors are Ross, Jasmine, um, Paul, and who was the other one? Zach. That was what I thought at the time because these guys they were always associated. But little did I know, if I'd have really caught up on the signs, they were there, who the other people were. But Paul was, because he's so popular, he was always around so many people. So it's a lot more difficult to get it by association.
I feel like even if like they weren't traitors, you would still want to break them up because an alliance of four people, considering how many people burn votes, like that's a lot of power.
Exactly. And at the round table, it'd always be Ross leading, Jasmine as though she's his, sidekick. And they always lead in the direction of where things go. And Ross has accused so many people, and every single time they're wrong. So I thought, and
Yeah.
then little did I know, obviously there was a mother and son alliance going on there. Jeez, my goodness,
Yeah, so
pretty, pretty tough.
you obviously said that you clocked Paul as a traitor early on. So why didn't you use it as leverage and try to get like an alliance with a couple of people and be like, hey, I think so and so is a traitor. Let's try to get to the end and then let's slit his throat and split this money.
Well, I tell you what. I did. I did. I tried that. I tried to get one of the people I approached. Oh, ha, Jazz boy. Well, I saw Jazz was always on Paul, and little did he know I was right there with him. So one time we were together, and I said he says to me, "Can we have a talk?" I said to him, "Yeah, I think we're on the same page." The next day I saw him, and I said, "Well, all right, well, let's have a chat then." He looked at me like, he doesn't know what I didn't have a clue what I was saying. And from that moment, then I didn't trust him again. I said, "Like, what's the point then?" We're exactly on the same page. We are on the same page, and I 100% agree with you. So I realized in this business, people are not in it for really those alliances. They're there for survival. So they'll swing whichever way, as long as it means their own survival. And that's the biggest problem that you've got. One of the major problems, because you think it's just, if you think about it mathematically, if there are four traitors and there are 22 people, that leaves 18 faithfuls. The chances are that somebody's a faithful is a high percentage anyway. But the real problem is people go for who they like, alliances and stuff like that, without really dealing with the hard facts. That's
Yeah.
just the way it goes.
So, going into episode 6, your swan song, how did it feel getting accused for Tracy's murder? Because obviously she threw away a vote on you on episode 2, so they were like, I think it's Anthony, I think it's Anthony. But I feel it's so weird with traitors because it's like people just look at like obvious things rather than looking at like it's they're trying to trap you. It's so obvious. Like nobody can be that dumb. What was that like?
I tell you, I walked into breakfast and it was like Tracy's gone. I said, "Oh my goodness, what a set!" I'm like, "Why do you guys get off my spleen? Please get off my spleen!" Because look, I've been under the cosh from the first round table. How I've even survived up to this point, only God knows, right? But they just keep coming. They just keep. And I thought to myself that day, I said, "Today's the business day." That's why I wore the suit blazer. I said, "Today's business. I'm gonna have to stand on business." Um, Either I turn the corner today or I'm gone today, you know. And once I saw that, I was like, okay. And the first person to start talking about, oh, Tracy's murder, Zach. So I was like, oh, here we go. Exactly. So I'm like, there you go. Right. They're setting this up. They want to make it look like it's me. All right. I see where this one's going. So now I'm gonna have to just lay it out there, lay it on the line. And yeah, if I'm able to get through this, then they'll have to finally leave me alone. They'll have to. You can only persecute somebody for so long before you just like, okay, right. Whether I like his personality or not, he's a faithful, point blank. But the other side of my plan was working, which was this. I never wanted to be a massive threat to the traitors until the right moment. So I didn't really want to let them know that, listen, especially Paul, like, you know what, I'm on, you know, I've got you tight in my radar, you know?
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's interesting how it all played out.
It's weird that you say that because now people kind of like, I mean, obviously it's just like random guessing, but even with like Linda this season getting clocked on early on, that's what saved the winner of the season because if you
Mhm.
murdered him, it kind of would be obvious. Um, but how cool was that night challenge with the graves and those giant security lights? Because you were like Mr. Secret Agent, Stealth Man, being the last one standing. So how cool is that just to like rewatch and be like, hey, look at me, to all my friends and family, I'm a badass.
Listen, they didn't even catch my dive. I did a few dives and roly polies, man. They didn't even catch them. I was like, oh man, narrowly missing the light and stuff like that. But I tell you what, that was a really wonderful challenge, and it's one where I was the last man standing because again, we definitely, I was in from the beginning to the very end. Not everybody was in from the very beginning. So I definitely was truly the last man standing. That's for certain. So it was a bit of personal satisfaction. I can't get satisfaction elsewhere, but here, look, I'm showing that, I'm standing. I'm able to compete and do well in these challenges, and that's one of the things I missed from obviously my exit. Because obviously there were other challenges. You really wanted to just challenge yourself.
Yeah, so what's that feeling when you unfortunately do get banished and you're telling everybody you're faithful and you're like, it's going to be 8-1. You're totally wrong. So was there a little bit of satisfaction, even though like you're pissed being going home because nobody wants to go home?
Well, as I said, I put the blazer on. I said, listen, if I'm going out, I'm going out Tony Montana style on the balcony, man. That's how I'm going out. Okay, yeah. So you lot come tell me everything you want. I take everything that you say, but I'm gonna give you some facts. I'm gonna tell you the truth, right? And if you guys want to vote for me, that's up to you. Because really, you're just voting for me based on personality. You know what I'm saying is 100. So, and at that time, of course, I was fired up, you know, because I'm a competitor ultimately, and I don't believe in being part of the also rans. I'm here because I want the victory. But obviously, you get to that point where you realize, yeah, it's here and now, and this is what it is, and there isn't much I can really do, you know. And then for me, it's all the people pretending like, oh, I didn't know. I got played, so I was there momentarily. So obviously you'd be upset about it, but then it passes, and then you think, oh well, actually it is what it is, because the fact of the matter is, if the shoe was on the other foot, the same thing would have happened. So you got to call it as it is. So yeah. So from that point of view, yeah, just I thought at that moment when I said the 8-1 down speech, that was really about a last throw of the dice, because if somebody's telling the truth, you feel it and you know it,
Yeah,
and they knew it, and I told them the facts. There it is, and as you see behind me, told them let that sink in. You know,
yeah.
definitely.
So last two questions. What's your
Mhm.
favorite thing about Claudia? Because I think she's the best Traitors host, even better than Alan Cumming.
Favorite. I'll tell you, what's my favorite thing about Claudia? I guess it's is when we're filming. I think what's great is just to see her just being in her normal sort of everyday personality, and then just switch into professional mode. It's great to see that. It's one of the best things that I like from that point of view. Then you just realize, hey, it's people. I felt that was because me personally, you didn't get to really be around Claudia per se, or whenever you're around Claudia, well, she's at the round table. That's not the time you could, for example, there was one time I think I was at the round table and she was like, silence. I think I said something, she said, silence. So I can't go, come on, Claude, it's all right. I've still got a couple more things to say. This is what it is. So you don't really get that time to really mix. But when you do get a moment, it's nice to see that, a bit of banter, a bit of jokes, a bit of fun, there's the human element of it. So that's one of my favorite things.
What do you take away from the experience as a whole?
Um, for me, it's a case of, again, it's this. Whenever you have, um, well, I should say, let me reframe it. It's a case of take inspired action. That's what I definitely take away from that. Because if I didn't take inspired action, I wouldn't even be on the show. When I got the goosebumps in my arm and I felt like that show was for me, I felt the connection that moment. I acted on the spot. Didn't look left, didn't look right, didn't think twice, just did what I needed to do. And that's what I say to anybody, that's one of the greatest takeaways. It's just a confirmation, it's a validation that, when your moment comes, then, act, do what you need to do. And yeah, use that in your life moving forward. So it's one of my greatest takeaways. It's a confirmation, it's a validation. And as we speak anyway, there is, I'll be back on your screen shortly, very shortly. So yeah, again, look where it's gone, literally from that. So it's all about taking inspired action, because that moment could have come and I could have let the voices in my head infiltrate and tell me, no, you won't be able to get on it. No, don't do it. This, whatever the reason is, but no, but I didn't. I just, yeah, really just, it's something that I believe in. So definitely it's a takeaway. As I said, we'll be back on your screens. I'm currently doing a show called Chess Masters, the End Game. Yes. So we'll be presenting chess show for BBC Two, scheduled to be out possibly in the next 3 weeks. So if this does go out there, will definitely join me on there and see the journey, come into my world, the chess world, indeed,
That's cool.
Uh, and yeah, so shout out to anybody who's definitely watching this. Definitely come and join. And as I said, be inspired, be uplifted, and keep progressing.